The only thing that really worked for me were the shorts.
This guy has more subscribers than I do.
I kind of have the impression that just shorts are OP and everyone should be doing them.
This is a conversation with Johan Grönwall, the creator of the fantastic indie game Bobble Battle. He creates short-form content on YouTube and TikTok, resulting in millions of views and thousands of wishlists for his game.
The advice online is very much against everything I say and everything I've experienced. I have my own physics engine from scratch, and I have my own network solution. I worked too long on the game. I made my own capsule art. I do everything wrong. But it kind of worked. You don't have to be a super genius.
His game Bobble Battle was his first commercial release. He spent 6 years on it. And contrary to what most people think, Johan thinks you should be more ambitious with your game ideas. You did one of those quit your day jobs things, didn't you?
I did do that, yeah. During COVID, when everyone else was getting canned, I was like, this is a good time to head out myself and just work on my game. And I worked 3 years for a game engine casino company. So I was on the game engine team. They were making casino games. But obviously it's a bit of a nasty business. And so I wanted to get out of there pretty fast. And I took my chances when COVID struck.
All right, so you had some savings and you were like, this is my chance. I'm locked inside anyway, let's go.
Yeah. And it's also kind of socially awkward to quit your job, to be like, fuck you guys, I'm gonna make a game, Yeah. It's kind of awkward, but if everyone else is leaving, you can kind of like just leave too without it being too embarrassing.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so a good opportunity presented itself.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. I think the world is happy that it did, because Bobble Battle turned out to be a fantastic game.
Thank you very much.
How long did it take to make?
You want to know the date when I created the project?
If you still know.
It's 2016. Okay, I don't know the exact date, but I know the project was created in 2016. And then it's like sleeps, right, for a while. And then I work on it a little bit and I start over and I'm working on my day job. And then eventually, I would say maybe it's like a 6-year game in the end or something.
Okay, wild. But that includes some rewrites and starting from scratch from what I've heard there.
Yes, and just learning how to make games in Unity and stuff, right? And eventually like replacing all the Unity stuff with my own stuff in the engine and all this stuff. But yeah, basically... So it was a huge project. And, I know there's lots of people who are way more productive than me, probably could do it a lot faster. A lot of people you talk to on the podcast probably. But for me, it took a long time. But eventually, if you keep working on it, you can finish your project, right?
Right. So for context, what was your experience level when you started the game project, when you created that Unity file? You didn't have a lot of experience in Unity back then?
No, I had made, before Bobble, I worked on a tiny project a little bit and I gave that up and I was like, let's do Bobble instead. So it was like the second try, basically, in Unity. Before that, I'd made like 2 or 3 games during university.
Yeah, that makes it even crazier, that basically from going from only working on engines before to your first game working out so well. I think that's quite fascinating.
Yeah. I think I just like being in the middle of a project. I don't like starting new ones. I don't like ending them. I like being in the middle of them and just working on it and making it better. And I'll just get stuck there forever. This might be the difference between me and many developers.
See, you don't need to worry at all about sounding like a marketing person. I think you're fine. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that's true, right? The fewer games you make, the less marketing you have to do, right? If you make a bunch of games, you gotta do you want to do your 6 months of Steam marketing or whatever to gather your wish lists. You gotta do more, right?
So you think you can be more chill about your marketing if you have a longer project because you have more time? That's probably true. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
So if we go through your project chronologically a bit, so you started it like not 6 years ago because the game's already been out for a while, but in 2016, I think you said, right?
Yeah.
So the first couple of years, you tinker around a little bit, and then what happens next? Like, how far did the first iteration of the game go? Why did you restart? How did the project evolve?
Well, the first thought was to make something which was based kind of similar to Neuta's wand system. You know how they have their, you can combine different little things, and you make your special wand, and it does like some crazy magic over there. I was thinking This was before Noita was out, obviously, but I had a similar idea to that. But I decided not to do it because I kind of realized, or I couldn't think of enough interesting things to put in there. I felt like it would only, in the end, it would only become like a gun that just killed everything over here, right? No matter what you made, these little things you combine, it would and I kind of see that a little bit in Noita, that in the end, you end up creating this massive gun that kills everything off screen and some guy shoots you off screen. And like, I feel like we want to focus on gameplay. We want the gameplay to be dynamic. And so that was a little bit scrapped. And then I saw the square brawl, right? And I was like, okay. We'll just combine them by having 3 powers at once instead. So
I haven't actually played. I haven't played Square Brawl. Can you try to pitch Square Brawl in like a few sentences or something? Or
Square Brawl, the setup is basically like Bopple, that you pick your 3 or 2 powers in the beginning, and you're a square, and you can like run up walls. You don't stick to the walls, but you can kind of roll up them, so they still use the full screen, despite it being like a side scroller, right? Like a lot of side scrollers, you'll just be at the bottom of the screen, and all this up here is not used. But because you can roll up walls, you can use the whole screen as your map, and you kill each other, right? And maybe I don't remember if you had stocks or not in there, but and it's just swapped to the next level, kind of like stick fight or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I see the similarities to Bopple, and you're like, this is cool. I'm gonna make something similar to this.
Yeah. I remember like really trying to play the game as if it were Bopple when I played it. But it didn't really want me to, right? I was like, okay, I'm gonna pick the sniper and the grenade, and maybe they synergize somehow, because I can be far away with sniper, and if they come close, I'll throw the grenade or something. But it's kind of weak, right? I was like, let's make that really, really strong. So you focus all your efforts on that choice.
You think starting with a different game is a good starting point for making games? Would you do like that again?
It's probably a good idea, yeah. But I mean, it's not like it was like a proven concept. The game is not very popular, right? It's I think it's Landfall's like least popular game. When I actually met them, they invited me up to meet them in Stockholm, and I talked to them. I said I was very, very inspired by your games, and they kept guessing what game it was, and they couldn't get it right. I was like, was it rounds? No. Was it tabs? No. Like, no, it wasn't Square Brawl. Like, yes, it was. So they were kind of surprised too, apparently.
Yeah, because what most copycats do is they take something that's very successful, and then they put like some twist on that and make like a copy of that.
So this is kind of.
You took a game that wasn't very popular and remade it. That's because you're like, I can do better. You had the hunch that you can do better.
Yes, or that there is something in here that can be found, and then you just throw years of your life at it until you figure out what it should be like.
What's your motivation behind making games, or what was your motivation behind making Bopple Battle?
I'll say right now, my motivation is kind of like a problem for me, because Bopple Battle is kind of ending, and I need to like find the motivation to make the next thing, and I'm having trouble, to be honest. Like, because in the past, it was like, oh, I'm going to dream, I'm going to prove myself, I'm going to do this thing. I bet I could do a cool game,
So in a lot of ways, it was about proving to yourself and maybe to the world that you can do this.
That's definitely part of it. But I also am just fascinated by games and by game design and stuff. I listen to that kind of talk and podcasts and stuff all the time, and I think about it a lot. So I'm very interested in like what kind of games can be made. And I get frustrated at the games that are made. I'm like, why is everything not like this? They're doing it wrong. So I have very strong opinions about what games should be like, Yeah.
Okay, I see. All right. So what was the first rewrite then about? So the first iteration of the game was sort of something different, and then you realized that it had to be something else, or was it technological reasons? Or
well, I had basically started making them in Unity, and I realized that Unity wasn't really gonna cut it. Or I'm still in Unity, but I kind of replaced everything.
Everything.
Yeah, so I have my own physics engine from scratch.
Yeah,
and I have my own network solution. I have everything is written in fixed point. So I have my own fixed point data type so I don't use any floats. So I can't use any of the components except stuff that's just for visuals, right? Like you can use the sprite renderer and things like that. But I try to make everything deterministic because I use a Lockstep online solution. So I had to replace everything and remake it. So that was one time I had to replace it. But before that, there was also like, the game was a lot faster and less interesting. When you hear people talk about games like this, they often describe them as, this is chaotic and responsive. Those are common words. And Boffle Battle it's responsive, but it's very orderly and it's kind of slow. If you actually think about what the game is, people will still tell me that the game's chaotic and fast, but it's actually kind of slow and very orderly until the players find some crazy combo that breaks the game, and then it becomes chaotic. But it's kind of the players' mess that they create, and then the round ends pretty fast. So most of the time you're in an orderly state where the players can make plans and combine things, and they can kind of predict what's going to happen when they do that.
And it was faster and messier before, and then you realized it had to be slower.
Right. So the first ability, for example, was you just became a gun, and you aimed, and you shot, and it was a big explosion immediately where you aimed. And Boffle Battle could not exist if that ability is there, right? Because it's just better than anything else you can possibly think of. There's no point in doing all this roundabout stuff if you can just aim a gun and shoot them, right?
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So were you using Unity netcode before your netcode rewrite, or which tech did you originally build on?
There was no network before then. I was just using Remote Play Together before then. Yeah.
Okay. And then you realized there is no network solution for this, so I have to write my own, or did you just...
Yeah, something like that. I was like, I don't know how to do this network thing. And I looked at a bunch of stuff. There's like some paid options that seemed expensive, and I didn't know if it's going to work. But I could imagine in my head exactly how a Lockstep deterministic thing could work. And so I just went with that because it seemed doable.
Okay. I mean, you have a bit of an advantage there, maybe because you've been in the engine writing business before, right? So maybe you have at least some good intuitions about how to write systems like that.
Yeah, maybe, but it was very, very fun. I feel like making these systems have been like the most fun part of the project. It's just like, like you spend a month just making the network code. You get so locked in.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, because I would have never guessed that was a big part of the development process, was just writing the netcode.
Well,
yeah, let's talk about it then. I think I do know what you mean with Lockstep, but just to be sure, and also for people listening, can you explain what Lockstep is exactly?
Sure. So the idea is instead of sending things to each other and saying, I did this, you did that, you just send, I clicked this button, this frame. And then the next frame you say, I click this button, or I stopped clicking this button. So I am like cranking out 60 FPS packets from all players to all other players constantly. So there's a lot of traffic actually in Boffle because of this approach. But the big advantage is that you can make your game really, really complicated, and it's not a problem because you're just sending inputs anyway. So it's not going to create any bugs because you made a really complicated game, right? Something like if you imagine something like Overwatch, that has a very, very complicated network code. But like, I think Boffle is probably more complicated than Overwatch in its gameplay and like things that can happen. So I would have to make something even more complicated than they made, cost millions of dollars to make that system and make it good, right? So it just made sense to do something simple that doesn't become more cumbersome when you add more systems and things that can happen in the game.
Right. So the idea with Lockstep, as far as I understand it, is that you do not network positions of individual objects and so on. You only network user inputs, and you reconstruct the entire game state from that.
Yeah. I got a little off topic there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. So the idea, you only send the inputs to each other, and then you have a deterministic simulation that can run the inputs, and so you'll have the exact same thing going on in the game. And this also means you can very easily make a replay system. For example, so you can just save all the inputs, and you can replay exactly what happened during the match, which is very good for debugging, by the way. Very useful.
Bopple have a replay system? Do you have a replay system?
It does. It's a bit hidden. The thing is, I mostly use it when someone has a bug. They tell me, hey, I have this bug. Okay, send me the replay, and they send me the replay. I can run it in Unity and I can recreate the bug.
And because
it
it's
works.
Yeah, right. And because it's deterministic, you can reproduce it exactly, basically. Yeah.
Yes. And I can just hold down F9 and run the game at 10x speed,
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So deterministic means that when you provide the game with the same inputs, you get the exact same result. And for everybody who didn't know this, Unity is not deterministic by default. So that is why you not only had to write the net code, but you basically also had to rewrite everything else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like you don't know which order the awake functions are going to be called, for example. Right. And you need to create a unique ID for every object so you can sort them and so everything's in the right order and things like this.
So you created your own deterministic game engine within Unity.
Yeah. And now I have to pay the stinking yearly fee, even though I don't basically use anything.
Damn it. Port your C# code to Godot or something.
Yeah, a little too late to do that, I think.
So but what does it take to write that kind of check? Like how long did it take you? How much of the project is just engine code at this point?
That's a good question. The actual base of it I did in a month. I just sat down, were productive for a month. But then you end up running in, suddenly you have a desync somewhere and you don't know where it's coming from.
Frick.
And these bugs are very, very difficult to find. And so that obviously just goes out of control every now and then. I don't have a measurement, but it's probably not good. Right. I bet I would save a lot of time if I did not use Unity for this.
You think so?
I think so. I think it really helped to get started and to make something in the beginning. You could show your friends and get some feedback and have fun right away. But at some point, if you work on a game for a long, long time, the fact that it is so generic, all the systems, they're kind of overcomplicating things. And the overcomplications really turn into difficult to find bugs.
Yeah.
Like if I can give you an example in Unity, when you delete an object, it's not actually deleted. They pretend like it's deleted, right? They mark it as destroyed and they set all the references to null. Or they don't set the references to null, but they pretend like they're null. They override the operators, okay? And maybe that's okay if their abstraction works, maybe that's fine. Well, then you have an interface static type, and then you try doing it. It won't use the overloaded equals sign. So suddenly you have a bug where you literally checked if null, and then you have a null pointer exception right after. And it drives you crazy. What's happening? So this stuff like that all over the place, that's complicating things. I bet if I just had a robust base, some freaking C stuff, it would just work. And I wouldn't have had to worry about all these complications.
At least it would be easier to debug because you could you would understand how the systems work and you would be able to fix it. I think the reason why it's kind of okay for most developers is probably because we're not going into such a low level, right? Most developers operate at a very high level. We use all of the engine features and don't really need to understand how they work. We just use them. But obviously, if you do more complicated things like writing your own engine in the engine, then
it gets in the way.
Yeah,
turns out.
Yeah, I see that. In particular, what does it take to write your own physics engine?
It's not that hard. Especially not if it doesn't have to be that fast or good. And Bopple isn't. It's a little buggy. It's a little weird. And I probably made it more difficult than it needed to be. I'll end up having fun solving the math equation for intersecting two rounded rectangles myself instead of looking it up. So I'm making things more difficult than they need to be probably. But I don't think it's that crazy, especially if you look up this math stuff. You can find a tutorial and follow it and kind of look at Box2D's slides. It's probably a lot more difficult to do a 3D thing or a really performant 3D thing. And now we have 3.0 of Box2D, which is really, really fantastic. So maybe you don't need to anymore.
I see. But I mean, in Bopple, there seem to be some physics interactions that I think would even be quite difficult to make with Unity's built-in physics system. For example, the characters that move on the surface of your physics objects. I don't even know how I would do that with the default physics engine without it feeling completely clunky. Do you have like a specific extra implementation for that, or is it?
I do. It is its own thing. Your intuition is exactly correct. There's a separate coordinate system for players when they're on a platform. They have like a between 0 and 1 position on how far around the platform they are.
Okay.
And then every frame I like transform that into a world position. So
Cool.
So that way, if you grow the platform, you'll stay in the same spot. And if the platform rotates, you're in the safe spot. And we can make sure that no one starts vibrating and things like this, which happened before.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I see. Bopple Battle, you said yourself, it feels very responsive. I think one problem that Lockstep games typically have is that you need to wait for everybody's input to arrive before you can reconstruct the game state, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that the case? Does Bopple Battle have some input delay, or did you?
Oh yeah. I bet some people watching it get mad when you say it's responsive because they play it online with some friend with bad ping and it's not very responsive at all. But the thing is, I try to make the game itself as responsive as possible in the local mode. So when the input delay happens, it's a lot less, right? And I do some weird stuff in the network code, and I'm not even sure how well it works. But I try to do something where there isn't even really like a round trip between the server. Because usually you would be like, ask the server, hey, do this, and the server says, okay, back. That's a very common thing, right? And you wait for the okay. But here you really just send your inputs constantly, and you just constantly get things back. And I hope that the clocks of the computers are roughly synced by the system, and that someone isn't like a bit. It's probably true that someone has like a little bit more lag than someone else. But if everything goes right, we should be able to do it in just a single lag rather than a full lag times 2, which some games will have.
I played it with friends and I found it surprising. It felt surprisingly responsive. Like I didn't notice any lag, even though like we were definitely like a couple of people from different countries.
Well, great.
Interesting too.
But like, you know, a big thing about making something feel responsive is to just have there be a big change in the first frame, right? You hit jump. In Bopple, I don't just add like a velocity to the character when you hit jump. I like teleport the character up a little bit and I change the animation, the sprite, right? So like there's like a big change right away. Makes it feel more responsive even if it isn't.
Do you
do stuff like that.
basically cheat that locally, that if I press the jump button, the character instantly jumps up?
No.
No. Okay, it waits for the input.
There's no cheating. It does.
Yeah, okay.
But it doesn't feel as bad if there's a big change rather than if there's like a small change. Doesn't feel.
Got it. So basically, if your game feels responsive to begin with, then adding a bit of extra delay is not as bad.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm really a big fan of Lockstep for indie developers because it's kind of nice, right? Once you've built the core engine or the base system, then as you said, adding all of that complexity on top is almost free once the engine works. Yeah. All right, but let's jump back to the development. So you're developing the game, you're writing your own engine for it. Then I assume at some point you're like, how do I tell people about this game, right?
Yeah, and I did, you know, I found this Chris's How to Market Game thing, his Discord channel and website and stuff. So I've been looking at a lot of that stuff, and I have a friend who makes games too that I've been getting advice from. So I've tried a bunch of stuff that they suggest, and the only thing that really worked for me were the video shorts. Like the Reddit and the asking YouTubers and stuff didn't really hit very hard for Bopple.
It is interesting because I've been talking to a lot of different developers recently, and I'm starting to realize that everybody's telling a bit of a different story for what works and what doesn't. So maybe the truth is just it depends, right? It depends on your game. Maybe.
That's very interesting because I kind of have the impression that just shorts are OP and everyone should be doing them. But maybe I'm wrong.
So just for everybody watching to know, right? This guy has more subscribers than I do. You're at like 500,000 subscribers with your YouTube channel.
Yeah, almost. But I don't really post. You know, it just happened really, really fast.
So
yeah, I'm probably gonna annoy any YouTubers to just be like, I don't even try that hard. It just happened.
I think it's fair play, because I was very confused. I checked out your YouTube channel and I had a look at the normal upload page at first, and it was like you uploaded 3 videos with like 1,000 views each or something.
Yep.
I'm not sure. Like, did this guy viewbot or like what the hell happened? But then on the shorts page, it all made sense. Yeah. Because you have a lot of your shorts have like 10 million views, 1 million views.
Yeah.
So how did you get into that entire shorts thing? So
I think it was recommended by over in the How to Market Your Game YouTube page. They like showed some Twitter threads. There were some people from Landfall who were suggesting you do this. It's like, okay, I trust Landfall. We'll give it a shot, right? And so I just tried making some stuff over on TikTok first. I think TikTok is really, really good for game devs. Maybe it's because my game is appealing to the younger audience, and that's why that works so well. But there's lots of things about it that makes it really, really useful compared to YouTube. Like if you wanted to copy Bopple's approach, what you should do is make a really, really long game, work on your dream game for an absurd amount of time, and gather up little stories, little interesting things that happened, things that you did, some fun things that happened with your friend when you worked on your game, stuff related to your game that's easy to understand. And you just gather those up over like years. And then you make a bunch of shorts every Friday, Every Friday you make a short. I usually spend like a whole day making a short. Thinking
that takes
a work day. A work day, It probably like a short work day, to be honest. Like it's not, if your thing is 1 minute long, it's not that much work, right? I bet these 20, 30-minute videos you make sometimes are a ton of work. But if you just make this short thing, you don't have to work that hard. It's just, if the story is good, that's where the value is. And if you can not annoy people too much with your voice or your mannerisms, and you can tell the story in a good way, people are into it, right?
So what I've heard from what you just said there was you don't make the entire short in a day. You basically have a collection of ideas and stories that you gather along the way. So that when it comes to making the short, you already have basically a list of ideas to fall back on.
Yeah. I mean, I think I kept them in my head. I didn't write them down, but because they were pretty interesting, so they stuck in your head, right? At least they were interesting to me. And so,
did you already collect these kinds of stories in your head before you started making shorts, or was that something that once you started making these, you started looking for these kinds of stories?
That's a good question. I definitely had a bunch from working on it before, but I probably got more attuned to it and looked for it more when I noticed that the shorts were doing well. Because then I was getting ideas like, maybe I should implement something just to prank my friend or something, and that would become a short, and that would be good. You can get ideas that way too. But it was mostly just gathered up stuff that actually happened when I worked on my game.
I think there's a lot of interesting discussion to be had about how to tell a story, though, right? Because I see a lot of developers on YouTube, they sort of make some devlogs, explain their development story, and nobody really cares because all they're doing is they're listing work steps, right? They're like, first I did this, then I did that, now I'm working on this, now I'm working on that.
Yeah. But doesn't this happen very easily if you just make a game jam game? You don't have that many interesting things to say because you haven't spent that much time, and like cool stuff hasn't happened. So like, what are you gonna do? You got to get your marketing Thursday done, right?
Yep.
You got to make something. So that's the advantage of being the stupid guy who doesn't follow the internet's advice and just work on your game for 6 years, right? You actually have a bunch of things to say, and that can kind of reward you in your storytelling.
That's true. So you first of all, you need some things to say. That's step one, and you can get there by maybe making a longer project. But then even if you have something to say, if you have like a little story in your mind, then the question is still, what do you do with this? So let's say you're sitting down on a Friday to make another short. You have a story in your mind. How do you approach it from there? Do you start with the script, I assume?
Yeah, I do. I do start with a script, and I think about like the first few seconds are very important in a short. Viewers will decide if this is worth watching or not. So I often start out by saying blah 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 in my game, so they know that it's a developer of a game who's talking and not just some random guy. I think that's important, and I try to hook them with a little by having a little intro to what I'm about to say, like, oh, this happened, and maybe this. So the most watched video, I say something like,
I almost deleted this ability from my game, but a friend of mine had the most brilliant idea to fix it.
And people get curious, what is this great idea my friend had?
So you're mentioning that it's your game and you're creating some sort of intrigue that makes viewers want to keep watching.
Yeah,
and within the first
and I do so honestly. I don't clickbait it, right? Like I actually do think everything I say there is true. A lot of people are they want to capture your attention, and if you have these TikTok kids who've watched TikTok for thousands of hours, so they're pretty keen on finding when you're being fake, right?
I think the problem with shorts, I mean, I'm not super big into consuming shorts content, but what I've noticed is that a lot of shorts have this twist and this intrigue in the beginning, and then they don't deliver on it, and that just super annoying. And
that is super annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is not the feeling I got from your shorts, right? I found them quite enjoyable, and watching them to the end felt rewarding. So I was like, I want to watch more.
That's what I'm aiming for, right? Like, and so hopefully next time they see a video of mine, they'll be like, "Oh, this was interesting last time," right? Mm-hmm. And then and getting repeat watchers is who buys your game in the end, I guess. Also. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that's important. And then I have made some mistakes in some of my videos. For example, I made one where I was too technical and I assumed that people knew language that they don't know, right? Like I was talking about units and buildings, kind of like as if I assumed they had played StarCraft before. Mm. And obviously the TikTok kids have not played StarCraft. They have no idea what I'm talking about.
Okay, that's interesting.
So like stuff like that is important to think about. Like don't be pretentious with your words. Just say what it is. Don't be too cringe.
Got it. TikTok, when I dabbled with it, I think it was a couple of years ago, it felt weirdly region locked, right? So all of your content is first being shown to people regionally, like in your area, before it's expanded out globally. Is it still like that? Because I know you're not from an English-speaking country either. Do you just post TikToks from your phone and they sort of reach the entire world, or how does that work?
Yeah, it definitely, videos start out by just being regional, for sure. At least that's how it used to work. I don't really notice anymore, because if you have enough subscribers, it just pushes it out pretty hard to your subscribers, right? But it definitely worked like that in the beginning. So maybe you'll be like a little bit sad to see your first video get 50 views or something, because it's just Swedes watching. But I think if your video is good, it's probably just gonna get to America anyway. I don't think you need to get a separate phone and.
Okay, that was exactly what I was getting at. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can just post, and they don't have to go that crazy to be shown to other countries. So I don't think you have to worry about it that much, because like 1,000 views, 5,000 views, it's not a big deal. You're not going to get way more wish lists by going from 1,000 to 5,000, right? It's like you need to have a video that's good enough that it reaches America anyway. That's the impression I have, at least for this kind of thing. Maybe it's a Sweden thing though, right? Maybe Sweden is Americanized enough that they have common interests with Americans, and they like similar things.
If you had to guess which percentage of your wish list comes from shorts and TikToks that you made?
Probably all of it.
You think so?
Probably all of it.
Press X to doubt.
What else worked? I mean, I tried like Reddit. That didn't really work. And I tried, and like if I look at like my graph of wish lists, I don't really see the YouTubers posting on the graph, but I see my own videos. Like I saw Soda Pop and played my game is a big Twitch streamer, and I saw nothing on the wishlist graph that day. But then I post like a TikTok, and it's like a boom spike. So it's like I'm creating all the YouTube stuff. I am the Bopple Battle YouTube guy. Yeah. And I'm creating the spikes myself. So.
You don't have to share any numbers if you don't want to, but like, what would you say? How many wish lists would you get from a average TikTok video or something?
I don't remember. Can you see that in your stats somewhere?
You can probably look it up on Steam. Do you remember roughly how many wish lists you launched with?
What was it? I remember passing 7,000, being like, yes, that's what Chris told me to pass, and then it went a lot further.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it was probably 70,000, something like that.
Okay.
Is that right? I could be making that up. I'm not sure.
I think that sounds like it could be in the correct ballpark for sure.
It's something like that.
Do you remember, was there like a ramp up before launch where you got significantly more wishlists, or was it like a slow, continuous grind with making content yourself?
For me, the first couple of TikToks were pretty flat. They didn't really do anything. And then I had this one that did really well all of a sudden. It got like 200,000 views.
Uh-huh.
And that's when things started going really, really well after that. And then I could just keep doing that. It wasn't like a random, it seems like it wasn't like just a random chance event that video did well, because when I make something similar, it would do similarly well. If I made something a little better, it would do a little bit better. And if I made a worse video, it would do a little worse. So like it seemed predictable, which is pretty interesting, I think, because obviously if you listen to someone like me speak about this, you should be worried about survival bias, right?
Yeah.
So, but there's a slight argument against survivor bias here, because I feel like I could tell before I released the video roughly how many views I was going to get on TikTok. Not on YouTube. YouTube is a mystery to me. But on TikTok, every video is like kind of independent almost.
Yeah.
And so you could kind of like see after a while, like, okay, so this is roughly how much this is going to get. And before I posted it, I could predict it reasonably well most of the time.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like it's probably similar for YouTube, just that the requirements for a video to do well are probably different. I
Maybe.
feel like if you would ask many of the top YouTubers, they would tell you, yeah, I can know if a video is going to do well before I release it. Like,
maybe, yeah.
I have some of those insights, but sometimes I'm also completely off. Sometimes I think a video will do well.
Sometimes you're off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm off, but I have a rough hinge, I would say, if something's going to do well or not.
But you know, it's an important part of the marketing strategy, okay? So you do your TikTok stuff, because when you do your TikTok, you'll get feedback on what videos are good and which videos are not good. And then you'll take when your game releases, just before Bopple released, I started posting YouTube stuff. And I'll be honest with you, when I first posted YouTube, I saw that the numbers weren't very good. And I was like, oh, maybe this isn't even worth doing. So I almost did not post my YouTube videos and got these millions of views. But I was like, I might as well do it now that the game's out. So I basically started posting them pretty rapidly right after the game released. And that's when they went crazy. So I think I had like 2 videos out before, and then I started posting like every day or something when the game released. There's something about the game releasing being this huge event, which gives traffic to YouTube, that makes YouTube really interested in showing my videos, and there's some kind of crazy explosion that happened. And that's why some of the videos have 20 million views now.
There's sort of a critical mass event when your game releases, right? I had a similar experience when I released Islanders, where suddenly my channel exploded. I'm not entirely sure why that is. It maybe people looking up Islanders more on YouTube, or maybe credibility boost from making my first game or something. I'm not entirely sure, but there seems to be something to it. So you basically had all of these videos saved up from TikTok, and then you could just fire them out very rapidly on YouTube, right?
Yeah. Right there during the biggest hype spikes. And that created a bunch more interest in the game, obviously.
I mean, that's nice because the videos are already tested on a different platform, so you already know if they're good videos or not. So
and the bad videos I didn't post, right? So now YouTube thinks my channel's really good.
Oh, I see.
Because
so it was you basically did it on accident, but it sounds like you might even do the exact same thing again for the next game on purpose.
maybe, or maybe things are different if you have a bunch of subscribers. Although I don't know how alive my channel is anymore, right? Like if I post again, how will it wake up again? I don't know. I'm not really posting very much.
I think YouTube used to be very momentum based, where this sort of stuff really mattered, but I think they have sort of moved to more of a every video does kind of stand on its own a bit more approach as well. So you could start a brand new channel and get 1 million views if the video is good enough. You could post a video to a channel that's basically dead and get 1 million views. I think there's not really any barrier in theory that's stopping you from doing that. I'm not entirely sure if it's maybe different for shorts or whatever, but
Yeah.
who knows?
But yeah, I mean, I think in general, these big spikes of doing many things at once is a good idea, right? It's like, it's the Steam Next Fest, and I'm posting this, and I'm doing this, and you get this compounding effect.
Do you think that's something you can plan for? Can you basically prepare these spikes beforehand?
Yeah, probably, yeah. I mean, you could do the same thing as Bobble did, and maybe it would work. I don't know if it's a good strategy, but it worked out for me.
All right, let's advance in the timeline a little bit. So your marketing efforts are going pretty well at this point, and you're approaching release. Where's your mind at what you're working on?
I think I was just stressed out, like, oh shit, the game's coming out soon, freaking out.
Were you confident in the game? Have you tested it a bunch with friends, or were you still unsure if this even works?
I tested a bunch with friends, but only with friends. I haven't done any like playtesting, like let's get a different group of people and see if they have fun. It's just now I invite friends to come play the game with me, and that's it. And I don't know, it just seemed like it would work. And then when you get all this attention on TikTok, you start to go like, maybe I can actually make some money. You know, that wasn't actually the plan from the beginning. The beginning plan was just, I'll just make a game because I need to become better at making games if I want to get a job in the industry and stuff. But it started to seem like it could be something when you get attention.
One thing we shouldn't skip over is the demo. I think you had a very interesting approach to that, because when I first learned about your game, it was actually a bunch of my friends playing the demo in a Discord server and inviting me in.
I see. Yeah. I mean, the demo's still up. I haven't closed it.
What was your thought process for the demo in general? Because honestly, it almost feels like a complete game.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. I wanted the demo to be really fun, but I also wanted it to be very, very enticing to want to buy the full game, right? So you have all these like locks. Every time you pick your abilities in the main menu, there's like all these locks on all these cool things, and you can go and you can look at their names. It says like black hole and stuff. And so you kind of want to buy the full game. If you look around there, you get curious. But the base, everything is in there. You can play online. You can use matchmaking. You can have a good time just playing the demo. But I think as long as it's enticing to want to get the full game, I think that's totally fine.
Yeah. I think it worked out very well in your case.
Yeah. I bet some genres should not do this, probably, right? They should be more careful with what they put in their demo.
I think you've definitely, you're definitely been a bit on the lean side, perhaps, maybe with where your demo almost has a bit too much
no, you think so? Maybe.
Maybe. I'm not saying that it has, but I'm saying if it's a spectrum, then you're more on that side than on the other side.
I'll remove some stuff and I'll blame you.
No, I think it was fantastic. So because people appreciate that, and if people appreciate a game for being generous, like with the amount of content it has and enjoying it, then that's when they bring in friends and so on. So maybe I would not even have learned about the game if it was more restrictive.
Yeah, I bet it's hard to. It is very hard to get your friends to come play with you. When
exactly
you get 4 different people to play the same game, it's very hard. You're probably gonna play League of Legends again instead. That's usually what happens, right? So if something is free, you can maybe it's easier to convince them to try it.
Did the demo result in any in a rise in wishlists? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think that was very big.
Yeah,
I think that was very big, and that was another spike. It was like release the game with a TikTok and everything at once and it was pretty close to Next Fest, I think. People were recommending like this many weeks before Next Fest. It's like, okay, I'll do that.
Did you get decent coverage on YouTube and Twitch from the demo or not?
Not that it showed up in the wish lists very much. So like I think I was probably a bit unlucky when it comes to YouTube, I suspect. Which is a little strange, perhaps, to say for someone who had so much good fortune. But since you bring in the views yourself, it's not a problem, really.
Yeah, I wonder how the watchability of your games like for YouTube content, because that's something I talked a lot about with previous guests and Gavin, of course. And for example, Gavin was like, high action games don't do very well with watchability. Because they're very fun to play, but as a viewer, you almost get a bit numb to like all of the action and like
That's probably true. That's probably why it's not so big on YouTube, the game. But then it's interesting that you can kind of be your own YouTuber then, as a patch to the problem. You just do it yourself.
Yeah, that and word of mouth, I think, from just making a great game, right?
And
I guess that's how I found your game, was definitely what I would call word of mouth.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and also the Steam algorithm likes to recommend it now, I think.
Yeah.
Even when a lot of the hype has died down. It's still it's well rated, so people see it when they've played similar games.
By the way, it's very difficult to make games that stay well rated even years after release. And I think you're still at overwhelmingly positive, so that definitely says something about the game. Maybe we should talk a bit about why it's so great, actually, or why people like it. And I think
it might not be obvious from just looking at it, right? I think a lot of people are pleasantly surprised by how much stuff is in the game. Because when they first look at it, they might think, oh, this is some Flash game that someone made in a couple of months. But obviously I've slaved away at this thing for years and put in lots of weird stuff that other games don't do. Like there's lots of weird hidden stuff that took way too much work, if you think about it. But it's just fun to discover weird things that don't happen in other games, right? Like I can give you an example. There's an ability that you place out an extra life in the level. So you place where you're gonna respawn, and you can bring 2 of these into the game. And so you place 1 here and 1 here, and then you die, and then you respawn. But since there's 2 extra lives, you respawn twice, and you get 2 guys. Suddenly you're controlling 2 players. So that was a bug that I made into a feature, and that became a short. Because it's kind of an interesting story.
Yeah.
And it has huge effects on the game because you can't, because suddenly when you program it, you have to think about, okay, there might be 16 times 4 players jumping around with these things. And so now I got to do an algorithm so that this isn't too slow. And it's kind of a dumb thing to do, but it's kind of funny. So you just do it anyway. That's kind of how Bopple was made.
And obviously the entire underlying design philosophy of making a game that's highly synergistic, I think, is also very smart, because you just get a lot more bang for your buck, right? You make one mechanic, but it's not just one mechanic, it's one mechanic that interacts with all of the other mechanics.
Yeah, although, you often have to fix things, right? So there's still work to do to make it work with everything else, right? Usually in the presentation layer, right? You want it to look good. There's a lot of cheating. Like you have your black hole is actually a square with a shader on it that draws the black hole. But then you can't have another ability that changes the texture, because then it's just a big square.
The way I imagine it is like you code the black hole, right? And then it has some generic code, like it sucks in all of the physics objects and it increases in size when it does. Then what you're saying is this causes a bunch of edge cases, though, that you have to treat separately.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering.
Okay, so right. So I can give you some example with the black hole for sure. So there's something called the blink gun in Bopple, where you hit something, it disappears for a little bit, and then it comes back. So we're essentially disabling the object. But there's an effect on that where I kind of wobble the object a little bit, and I spawn some textures around it. And then it's like, okay, well, but a black hole isn't actually like I can't use the mesh of the black hole, because the black hole is just a quad, and I need to find how big it's actually supposed to be. And you want to turn your black hole completely blue, but the way I turn it blue won't work because it's black, and I can't multiply that in. And like you run into all these problems, and you have to write a whole new shader for the black hole when it's combined with the blink gun.
Okay, got it. So okay, I see. So all of the synergies aren't free. You still have to.
No, it's not free.
You have to treat all of the synergistic edge cases then as well.
You will have to, yeah. Unless you have a really good base, I guess. If everything was made from triangles, and everything was a sprite, and everything had like a generic. But the code isn't that good. And I think a big reason for that is that I started out with Unity and then tried to replaced it all, but kept the structure because I didn't want to remake the game entirely from scratch. And so, another reason I probably would have saved time by starting over.
The game is just using Steam's networking solution, or do you basically have I think Steam has how do you call it?
They got the relay.
Yeah, exactly. They have the relay servers. Are you using those?
I do use those. Those are great. Love me the Steam relay servers. But so that's basically a way to send. Just send raw data, right? You send UDP messages and you solve everything else yourself including late packets and out of order packets and things like this.
Right. So the big advantage is now that the game's out, you don't have any server bills.
Yes, that's very nice.
Yeah.
But sometimes the game still breaks for some people, right? Like they update Proton to a new version, and that means that the game doesn't work on Steam Deck anymore. And so suddenly I have to panic and try to figure out what's going on.
And is that a ripple effect, a little bit of you writing your own engine in the engine still?
No, I think that's just Unity. I think that was just a Unity bug, for example, right? I think if I had written my own code, I probably could have been able to avoid this a lot more.
Okay.
If you can just find something small and robust as possible to build everything on, I suspect things would just work better.
Cool. So you maybe posted a couple of fixes and updates post-release, and now you're slowly wrapping up, or
So post-release, I updated the game a whole bunch. I kept adding things for a long time, and I kept making videos about the things I added. But it's a little bit less rare because I had to work and make a whole ability before I could make a video about it. And I had some crazy ideas that I wanted to spend a lot of time on, which I could do since the game did so well. It's no problem.
And did those updates, were they worth it? Did they result in sales spikes? Or
yeah, they definitely did. And if I was financially sensible, I would just keep making updates to the game.
Really?
But
you think that would be worth it? Really?
I think so. At least until you see that it would make sense to do it until you stop seeing the spikes.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That makes sense. But then I guess what you're saying is that at some point you're like, enough. It's time to start something new, or
yeah, and I'm trying to start something new, right? That's kind of what I am. I'm kind of trying to get the ball rolling on the new thing. Maybe I'll come back and add some stuff if I have some great idea or something. I'll probably go in and fix some bugs and stuff. But yeah, that's roughly where I am.
From all of this, do you have some sort of theory for how to make a successful game now, or how are you gonna approach your next game project? When you sit back and think about it analytically, what should I do from here, or what do you even optimize for? Right? Do you optimize your next game to be financially viable again? Do you optimize your game to just be something interesting you're interested in again?
I'm tempted to make something that's really not financially viable because because I'm in that position and I could do that. Maybe if I made a fighting game or something, that's not a good idea probably. But that would be fun to make. But who knows? What is my theory? I don't know. I don't know if what I did is a pattern that works, or if it was some weird freak thing, or if TikTok even will be around by the time I should market my next game, right? Yeah.
I mean, that's fair. I'm not sure if everybody thinks about making games the way I do. I personally think I'm a very theory crafty kind of person. I'm always trying to refine my theories about how all of this works. But
yeah, that makes sense.
But I realize that there are people who have different approaches to this one. So I'm just wondering how you think about it in general.
Yeah. I mean, I'll probably keep track of your channel to see your theory. See if you think something else is a good idea in the future. But what was so nice about the Bubble Battle approach was that it wasn't that much work on the marketing side, and it didn't feel too slimy either, because I could just be kind of honest. And so it's a very much a too good to be true, everything worked out situation. It's kind of what everyone wants. They just want to work on their game, their dream game, and they don't want to worry too much about marketing and stuff. And I didn't put that much effort into the marketing after all. It was just every Friday for half a year or something.
I would say that is part of at least the theory I've been preaching recently, which is just make a great game, which I think you did. And if it's a great game, then people will find it. And word of mouth is powerful these days, with people being connected via the internet and content creators and Discord communities. And if you make something that people like, then people will probably find it, unless you're very stupid about how you go about it. But I mean, to be fair, you said a lot of your wish lists came from shorts and TikTok and so on. So I'm obviously...
Yeah, I mean, where else would you get them from?
Yeah.
the Reddit stuff didn't work, and the YouTubers didn't want to play it before they before that stuff was out very much.
That's right.
So where would you get them?
That's right. But what I'm trying to say is that counteracts my theory as well a little bit with saying just make a great game, because I think in this case we have to be honest that maybe the game wouldn't have gotten the attention that it has without those charts.
Yeah, it probably would have done okay. Is kind of my thing, but there might be an extra 0.
Yeah, I think
because
so.
of the marketing. But even without that extra 0, I would have been pretty happy with that. So
All right. So what I hear is that you're a bit in a self-finding phase still for your next games.
I am. Like, should I make another game, like basically by myself? I mean, I had someone working on music, but other than that, it was like a solo project. Maybe I should like work with someone else. I don't know. How do you do that? I don't know. I should probably like try some stuff.
Yeah,
maybe do some game jams.
That sounds reasonable. Yeah, just expand your horizon a bit. Try a bunch of different things, and yeah.
Do you have any advice on?
I mean, there's
working in a team or not, or stuff like that.
There's this entire explore versus exploit idea, right?
Yeah.
You need to play the correct mixture between explore and exploit. So exploit is doing something that you know works, and explore is trying out new things to find out what works. And if you only exploit and you stick with something you know that works, then you miss out on all of the things that might work even better. And if you only explore, then you find a bunch of things, but you never take the time to exploit and actually take advantage of them. So I think that's the tricky part. You have to, maybe in phases like you're in right now, you have to do the correct amount of explore. And then at some point you have to switch back to exploit mode again and just do what you know works, right?
Right.
And specifically about working with people, I think the correct answer is, once again, it depends. If you like working with people, or I don't know, if you feel a bit lonely or something, then I think it's a good idea. And also I think you can make even better, more successful games in a team if that's something you care about, which I'm not sure you do. But I think it's the case. I think like 3 to 5 people is just 2 to 5 people is the sweet spot for where you're gonna make the most awesome indie games at the lowest cost. Rule of thumb: there are always outliers and exceptions. So hard.
Is there a reason that you think about success so much? I mean, you have your Thronefall and stuff, and they did very well, right?
Yeah, there's. And that is that I'm a theory crafty kind of person, and the enjoyment for me is derived from the theory crafting in a way. And the way I measure my theory crafting skills is basically with the success of my games, right?
Okay, I see. That's interesting.
And
so maybe I'm similar, but I'm more like I'm interested in the game design, the theory of the game design, and I trust my own judgment on if the game is good or not at the end. So I don't need necessarily this hard validation in terms of the facts, right?
I mean, it's I think it's kind of always okay to talk about success, because success is a very subjective term anyway and can be defined in various ways by different people. For example, if you say success, then nobody says that it has to be financial success, right? It could also mean something entirely different for you.
Okay. So you would include making a really good game that no one played as success?
I personally would not, because I think if a game is really good, then a lot of people would play it.
I see. Yeah, I mean, that's probably true. Maybe it's really hard to get into or something, like people don't get it. You'll be revered after you're dead. When people find out the genius of your game.
Do you think it's kind of annoying that developers talk about success so much? Or
no, it's not annoying. I think it's good that people. It's more that I'm curious, because I'm in this state now where I did this really successful thing.
Yeah.
And now I don't feel the need to be successful again, not in a financial way. So I'm kind of curious, because I want to stake some fire in me to get going.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say I'm in a similar boat where I don't have the financial necessity to make something successful at the moment, but it's like the competitive side in me that's just like
right.
So I want to have fun, but getting good is part of the fun for me. So, for example, I also train Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I hope that's
Oh,
not
damn.
too much of a meme that all of the podcasts seems to do something like that. But anyways, I'm kind of into martial arts, and the reason I'm doing martial arts is not because I want to be the best at doing martial arts. It's just for fun, right? It's just a hobby.
Yeah.
But getting good at the hobby is part of the fun. So if I'm like, I want to get good, but not because I want to be good. I want to get good because getting good is the fun part. And I feel like about the game development is, for me, is kind of the same way. Getting better at game development is the fun part. So I think that's why I'm chasing after success, because that is the fun part for me. It's like, I can see how people would look at that and be like, which amount of success is gonna be enough? But if chasing the success is the fun part, then what do you do? It's like, I don't know.
That makes sense.
So I don't know. Maybe you need to figure out what fuels you then. Yeah. I don't think there's anything wrong with just making a cool game that you wanna play. Is that fighting game idea something along those lines where you're like, that sounds fun to make? The fighting game?
Yeah, that sounds fun to make. Although it sounds like making it be successful is not that fun, right? Because you would probably need to foster a community and set all that up and have tournaments and stuff. That sounds really, really awful. But actually making the game and playing the game would be really fun.
Do you have an idea for a fighting game that's sort of different to what's already out there?
Yeah, I mean, I have my ideas on like, these guys are doing it all wrong. It should be like this. I have a lot of that stuff.
For what it's worth, I think that's a very good starting point for making games, to be like identifying a problem in the games that are out there and trying to fix them. I think that's generally a good starting point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. I hope I didn't ramble too much about myself there in the end. But
No. I'm interested in hearing about it. So, do you think that games are lacking something recently? Or do you think there's just a plethora of fantastic games coming out constantly? Or do you think they're kind of lacking? Are you cynical as me?
Are you cynical about a lot of games in general? Or are there specific games that you're being cynical about?
I think it's pretty general. I just see all the stuff coming out and I don't like it. I'm like, why are they doing it like this?
So it's not... it's not good practice to call out specific games probably, but can you sort of put a bit of a finger on what exactly you mean by they're doing it wrong?
It's tricky. Like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of games aren't really games, for example. And then then when someone makes something that really is a game, it just becomes really good, really popular really fast because people want to play a real game. That's... Like, I don't know, I was watching this YouTube video yesterday. Someone was talking about climbing games and how climbing games are totally different now that we have Peak and stuff. And the old climbing games, and they looked at these AAA games where you kind of like just click the yellow paint along a path. And I just don't understand how anyone can enjoy that at all. Like, what's going on?
So you mean that last generation of climbing games, or including the new generation of climbing games?
No, the new ones are the ones that I think are great. Stuff like Peak, stuff like a difficult game about climbing. I thought those were fantastic, and it's just, of course they are. They're real games, you know.
Yeah, maybe that's a different, similar feeling to what I have. Is I have a feeling that indie game developers are really making the AAA industry starting to sweat, because we're pumping out so much awesome content that is, I think, maybe even slowly starting to compete with their market share a little bit.
Yeah, the one critique I'll have of the indie space is that I feel like we're very game jam driven, and like here's a question for you specifically here. I remember on Thomas Brush's podcast, you talked about how the return on a game is this super linear curve, right? There's like this exponential, maybe it's an S curve because you saturate the market at some point. If you put in more effort, you get more value back. So why would you make these small game jam games if we're exploring an exponential curve? That doesn't make any sense.
I think the problem is that the curve is different for every game, right? There, you're basically trying to find the most optimal size for each game, and the curve looks different for each game. So there are some games that just get exponentially better the bigger you make them, but there are also some games that tinker off relatively
I
early
see,
and
I
then
see.
don't really get better anymore. So maybe maybe we
So-
didn't fully explain that in the podcast correctly.
I see what you're saying. So maybe
Yeah.
Vampire Survivors kind of like plateaus earlier in the effort because it's kind of a simple game at its core.
Exactly. It's like if you make something like Candy Crush and then, for example, having the difference of having 500 levels and 2000 levels is doesn't really move the needle that much anymore.
Right. But if you can keep making things that people care about, if you can keep adding stuff that people really do care about and that really makes the game better, shouldn't you just keep going forever?
I think
if you're maximizing your average return.
I think the point of games is sort of for people to have a lot of different experiences that they can't have in real life. So I think there's value to extending games, but only to a point, because at some point people will be like, but I want to have more experiences. I want to have other experiences. And at that point, maybe it's better to start a new game and provide a new experience.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, yeah, I guess we're saying the same thing. It's just when the curve starts to plateau, you should stop.
Yeah, I think so.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just worried that people are making games where they just kind of climb the flat line, and then they just stop. It's almost in the idea itself does not have an upwards slope.
I see what you're saying,
because it's too small. It's like you put in more and more effort, you'll find that maximum derivative, get those big returns. So I don't know. I'm a little bit skeptic about the game jam stuff, and maybe even the prototyping stuff that you talk about a lot, because you almost are limiting yourself to game ideas that are very easy to implement or fast to implement a little bit.
Right. So just so I get this right, you're saying when we are prototyping, we're climbing this very, very small section of the slope in the beginning, and this is too early to say where it tinkers off or where it's gonna go.
No, I don't necessarily think so. I mean more like the point I'm making is I'm a little bit worried that these game jam ideas, or that we have all of these really, really high return games that people are not doing because they're trying to make them small. They're trying to make game jam games. And when you make a game jam game, you kind of like get to the point of the game pretty fast, and then you say, okay, this seems fun. But there is this huge curve flying up into space right next to you if the game was a little different.
So you're maybe worried that people make games that are too small almost to exploit the full potential of their games.
Yeah. Or not too small in that they don't have enough content, but like too small in their idea, like it's not very ambitious, right? You want an ambitious game. Like it's like, I from the start said Bopple Battle is going to have 30 abilities, and it has 29. But I'm counting random as an extra ability because it makes a nice rectangle in the menu. So I hit basically what I decided very early eventually. And that was an ambitious number for this kind of ability and this kind of game. And I don't know, I want to see more ambitious indie games. Because when I see these tiny little things that people make in a couple of months, I'm not really very interested in them usually, unless they happen to come up with some really brilliant idea, right? Like your Vampire Survivors, right? Where it really makes sense to not work on it for too long. I suppose what I'm saying is there's not a lot of game ideas where the slope is very early. That's my suspicion.
Got it. Okay. Because obviously what we're trying to do with prototyping and so on, to maybe put that into that frame a little bit, is we are trying to guesstimate the shape of the curve ahead of us, right? So we're dipping our toes into the project a little bit, and we're like, is this a very flat slope? Does it basically lead nowhere? Is this a very steep slope that gets us a lot of returns on investments very fast?
Yeah.
And then we're trying to pick a project that has a favorable curve.
I doubt you would come up with the idea of making a MOBA with your prototyping process, for example. No. I mean, that's a little extreme, right? But that kind of thing is an absurd amount of work to get to a working state. Yeah, that's fun. Yeah,
I think what you can do in those cases, if you want to do something like that, is you set up the tech first, because that is something you have to do anyway, and then you do your prototyping phase, right? So I would maybe in those cases I would delay the prototyping to where the tech stack is working.
But then you would need a pretty generic tech stack, I guess.
That is
account for.
That is true. So you would have to make some decisions beforehand. For example, you would have to say, we are making a MOBA-like game where you control characters from a top-down perspective. But the thing is, if you have something like that, it's not like you have a MOBA. You need to make a MOBA, right? You could still do something entirely different. Yeah, interesting. So you think people should be more ambitious with their projects? I guess.
Maybe. I mean, the advice online is very much against everything I say and everything I've experienced, right? It's like, I worked too long on the game. I made my own capsule art. I do everything wrong. But it kind of worked. And one of the things people say is, keep your game small. Don't feature creep, right? And all of this stuff. But like, I don't know. I want to play ambitious indie games. That's what I want to play. Mm-hmm. So I want more of them, even if it's just for me to have something to play. But
I get that. That makes sense. Yeah. How do we get indie developers to say we're gonna make a MOBA? I think the problem is just that probably it's a lot of indie developers probably think it's too risky, especially if you look at things like how well clicker games are doing, how well incremental games are doing. I think the urge is or the incentive is very high to just be like, okay, let's try making an incremental clicker-like game or something, I mean, not make a MOBA.
MOBA might be like kind of an exaggeration, right? Yeah. But maybe you could be inspired by MOBAs and make something a little smaller than a MOBA, but that's still pretty ambitious. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a 3v3 MOBA with 15 heroes or something. Mm-hmm. Is that really impossible to do as an indie project? I don't think it is. No. It is pretty scary though.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it just needs some people in our situation who have some financial buffer to take these kind of risks. Maybe that's our job.
Oh no, is it on us to make this happen?
Maybe. I guess the people who can afford the risks should be the ones to take them.
Yeah.
Can't really blame small developers for making safer things, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense, but it's still frustrating, to see the 100th copy of Vampire Survivors coming out, and it's like
sure. But I think it's like the market is very fair in this in a way, right? It's like the market rewards what it wants to see. If players want to play these games, then developers will keep making them, and as soon as people are like, okay, we've had enough of this, then people will also stop making them. So it's like filling demand in a way, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably true, but there's also like this, what could there be? And if these things existed, everyone would just stop playing all these other things immediately.
Right. There are these waves that a lot of developers seem to ride on, right?
Yeah.
One game starts a wave and then lots and lots of people try to ride the wave. And I think that's one frustration that I can definitely understand and also share a bit, is that it's like, really? Do we need like 200 games riding this wave?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you think a lot of great games come out every year? Like many?
There are
stepping on toes here.
Every year there are a couple that I think are real bangers.
Yeah, I
like
agree.
For example, Blueprints recently, I think, was an absolute banger. But
right, Blueprints.
Actually, I guess Blueprints is one of those games that would support your theory because it's a very ambitious game, and I think it feels special because of that. Actually,
did Blueprints have a very small team?
It was one guy, and then I think he got help from a lot of people. It was like one guy directing the game, and then getting help from quite a couple of people to finish it and make it work.
Yeah, but that's what I'm talking about. Let's get that ambition going. That's what I like to see.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, you're right.
And we can always. I can use the carrot that you'll have to market less if you work on your game for a long time. Remember that.
Maybe a reasonable compromise would be to do something similar to what you did, and then to check traction while you're working on the game, right? So you're maybe putting out some content, see how people react, and then like if nobody's responding to it, then maybe you shouldn't make it a 10-year project.
Yeah, but I mean, it probably makes sense.
If you're getting good responses like you did, then maybe make it bigger than you planned. I don't know.
Yeah.
Basically do some vibe checks. Do you think you'll reuse your tech stack in the next game? Like, for example, fighting game sounds like something where you could just reuse.
Yeah, I see. That's the kind of question that like makes me not want to start, because I'm like, I have to decide. I don't know. Maybe I'll write something in C, and so I can be free from these weird bugs that show up or something. I don't know. Maybe that's just a fantasy. So it would probably be a good idea to reuse it.
I have one proposal that I want to pitch to you. If you really enjoy writing the tech side of things, then one thing you could also think about is just writing the tech and selling it to developers. Because I think especially something like deterministic lockstep kind of stuff is something that's super highly attractive to indie developers, because it's, I would say, comparatively easy to implement. And there is a solution out there. It's called Quantum, from a company called Photon. And I think it's very good from what I've seen. But obviously,
it's pricey, right?
The disadvantage is you have to run it over their servers. So you have ongoing costs, right? And if there was a solution that maybe you license once and then you can run it indefinitely over the Steam ecosystem, I think that would be very, very attractive to a lot of developers. Maybe something to think about, but
yeah, I mean, yeah, they were very fun to work on for sure. I think the reason they're so fun to work on is the same reason as you touched on earlier, where it's like you don't know how well you can do this. Can you really pull this off? And you try and like, oh, I think I can. And you start working like, yes, it's working, right? Like that's that improving thing you talked about, right? That's why it's fun.
I see. So you do have a competitive side, but you're competitive about different things, maybe.
Maybe. There's definitely this side of just self-improvement. And if you're unsure if you can do something and then you manage to do it. I had one thing I wanted to say, because I know there's a lot of game developers watching this. I will say, maybe this is just survivalist biased, but I feel very differently about someone's chances of succeeding after having succeeded myself. It doesn't feel like a miracle anymore. I remember when I was making the game, it felt like it would be a miracle if the thing did well. Like there's no way. I think there is a way. I think we're underestimating the potential. It's not like a lottery ticket. It's better than a lottery ticket. You know, it's more akin to like becoming a professional artist or something. There's probably a few zeros less of a crazy chance for things to work out. So I'm trying to be encouraging here, because I genuinely think so now. I think it's not impossible at all, even though it feels so, especially if you're on game dev Reddit and everyone's really despairing.
Yeah. I think what's also fun to see is that all of this, like, quote-unquote successful developers you talk with, when you talk with them, you find out that they're just completely normal people. Like, it's like, like, not to be, I'm also talking about myself here, so no offense, right? But it's like, you talk to them, sometimes they're a little bit nervous, a little bit shy, I don't know. It's like normal people stuff. It's like, You don't have to be a super genius. You really don't, right? Like, and even if you're not that productive, you can eventually get done and put something out there, and it can do very well, as long as you're not wasting your time on stuff that don't matter. There's like two components to it, right? You have to put in enough time, and then you need to invest the time in a way that makes sense. So maybe
yes.
How do you think about that second one? How do you invest your time in a way that increases your chances of success? Because spending time is something I think that's fairly obvious, that everybody who's trying knows that they should do, but how to effectively spend your time, that's, I think, the tricky part, right?
Yeah. And I mean, I often don't spend my time particularly effectively. Like I said, I did all these stupid things, like you can clone yourself in the game. Anything in the game can grow and shrink. These stupid ideas that, like, if you worked in a team and you had a programmer and you told him that, he would be really cross with you, right?
Yeah.
But if you're by yourself, you can, I can do that. That's fine. But I don't know. I think it's just like a matter of being excited about it. Like, oh, does this seem cool? If it really seems cool and you're excited about it, you can work on it and you'll feel motivated to work on it. And it's probably not a waste of time if it made you feel that way.
Sure. Yeah, it depends on your definition of success. If you eventually want to make a living off of it, then it probably does matter how you spend your time a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. I mean, perhaps one of the biggest problems people fall into is that they kind of fall into various kinds of delusions, right?
Right.
As long as you understand what the reality is, you're probably okay, right? Because it's like, okay, I'm wasting time here, but it's not too bad, right? If you understand that, it's not really a problem. But if you're really wasting time on something that really doesn't matter, then it's a problem because you're deluding yourself into thinking something that's not true.
Yeah, I think you put that very nicely, because I think whenever I see somebody where I'm like, I'm not sure if that person's gonna make it, which, unfortunately happens sometimes, then usually the reason why is because you're right, because they're stuck in some kind of delusion and I can't talk them out of it. Like,
without being really rude and make them not like you.
Sure. But even that doesn't help sometimes, right?
No, that never helps.
Right. So how do you make sure that you don't get stuck in any delusions? Because I think this is something that can totally happen to anybody, right? If you're
I guess you just set a high bar, and don't imagine that someone's gonna like your game if you don't like your game yourself. I don't know. I'm a big critical thinker kind of person. Like I'm very, very skeptical of things.
I can tell. Yep.
So maybe that's why I'm better at staying out of delusions, even though I can still go on these grand adventures without being completely lost. Maybe that's a strength.
Yeah, at least there seems to be some common trait that you can see in game developers who made it, that they oftentimes have a analytical approach, but it's not always the case, right? But often. Often, now that I think about it.
I mean, even if you're not analytical, if you have an intuition which is good and that you keep checking.
That, and you need to be, obviously, the standard thing of you need to be careful not to surround yourself with yes men. If like all of your playtesters are yes men, that's a big problem.
Right, yeah. I never trust anyone's compliments ever. my friends' compliments.
Yeah.
I don't trust any of it.
Yeah. And also, I think developing good tastes is something that's probably more important than ever, right? Because you do develop a lot of the game on your own.
Yeah. See, that's if you're someone who feels like you're wasting away playing too much video games and not getting anything done, maybe there's even an upside to that, right? Where you're kind of becoming more like the audience that will buy your game, develop your tastes to fit them more.
Right.
So even that might not be a total waste of time.
True. But the people who are most likely to buy your game are the people who buy a lot of games. So if you want to really put yourself into their shoes, then you need to be someone who buys a lot of games.
I guess that's true. And I guess I'm not one of those people. Although I am someone who would buy my game, I think. I would buy my own game.
Got it.
And that might be a good check. It's like, okay, I think this game is fun, but would you buy it? That's a much higher bar, right? And could you convince your friends to come play with you? It's an even higher bar, right?
True. And also, I think being honest about the answer there is a good check. Yeah. There are some developers where I think they would not buy their own game, but I'm not sure if they would be capable to realize that.
Yeah, I bet that's tricky.
Yeah.
But maybe they're happier with that worldview. They're a happier person.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Yeah, who are we to judge? It's always dangerous. Yeah. So you do feel like it's more achievable than you thought it was?
Yeah, much more so. I've thought of it really like, this is something that the super productive geniuses managed to do, and normal people are kind of fucked, right? That's kind of what I thought. I don't think so at all anymore. After doing that myself, it's like, no. Also, I think ideas are so important. Like you talked about, like taste and ideas are so important. So like even if someone is like a super genius and they work really productively and stuff, if their taste is kind of bad and their idea is kind of bad, they're screwed. I think.
True.
Yeah. So yeah, I think ideas are surprisingly important in games, and a big reason for that is probably because no one's very good at game design, right? We're not very good at it. And so if we were really good at game design, like taking something and we could just make it into something fun, maybe the idea wouldn't matter so much. But if we're not any good, we're really relying on our initial idea to be a good idea, maybe.
Maybe. I have a bit of a different theory why ideas might be so important. It's
Okay.
Kind of going into a different direction. I think it's more that making something fun is actually surprisingly easy, and like much more so than I think a lot of people think. Because if you start making games, then you think like, oh, making something that's fun is the difficult part. But I feel like the longer I've been making games for, the more I realize that no, making it fun, that is the easy part. That is the part that you, if you have a somewhat decent process, that is the part that you're almost always gonna get right eventually. What's more difficult is making something that's appealing and that excites people before they play it, right? So something that attracts people into the game and something people are excited about. Then making something that's fun, it can be as simple as colorful blocks falling from top and you have to click them. It's like, it's not that difficult.
I guess I have my cynically high bar.
Yeah.
Where it's like, this isn't good enough. So it's not fun for me.
Right, but don't you enjoy, for example, a good rhythm game or something?
I do, but not enough where I buy them. But I did buy Guitar Hero when I was a kid, and I had a lot of fun with Guitar Hero.
But that's exactly what I'm saying, right? You're not buying these games because they don't entice you with their fantasy and with their presentation. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Once you play them, you would enjoy them, but you're just not excited about buying them.
Yeah, that might make sense. You might be onto something. For sure.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm refining my theories as I go. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. You can make games. It's achievable. Yeah. We believe in you.
we believe in you as long as you don't get delusional, guys.
Johan, thank you very much for coming on the show. It was super fun having you.
Thanks for talking to me.